This day serves as a reminder of the ongoing fight for gender equality and the empowerment of women in all corners of the globe. With that in mind, I'd like to recite a poem I wrote the other day titled Women Like You and Women Like Me. Dear women of Palestine, we want you to know that your pain is ours and your pain is mine, because let us be real. You and I did not choose the lives that we currently live. You and I did not have a say in the hands that fate would give. You and I did not know where we'd be born and in what time. It could have been me, it could have been you in Palestine. Let me give you an insight into what it's like to be a woman in Gaza in 2024, because we can no longer turn a blind eye or pretend to ignore. Right now there's 50,000 women in Gaza who are pregnant. That's 50,000 women who are not only fearing for their own lives, but for the lives of their unborn child. 50,000 women who will not have access to health care because out of the 36 hospitals that Gaza had, 0 remain there. These are women like you and women like me, and we will no longer be silent until they are free. If you were a woman in Gaza, you'd be forced to go through the unthinkable: miscarriages, stillbirths, labor with no medical supplies. This is beyond inhumane, and we are witnessing a femicide. If you were a woman in Gaza, you'd have no clean clothes, no hygiene products, no food or water. You'd have no idea when death would come because you're like lambs to slaughter. If you were a woman in Gaza, you would not know what is to become of you or your children in the next week, next day, next hour, next minute, next second. There's nowhere to run or hide so that you won't feel threatened. There's births and deaths and no time in between, and the world still refuses to make this stop and intervene. These are women like you and women like me, and we can no longer be silent until they are free. And if you were a woman in Gaza, then you'd be too malnourished to breastfeed. You'd use contaminated water to prepare baby formula because your child is in dire need. If you were a woman in Gaza, you might be one of the 9,000 women killed in the last 4 months. Where are all the feminists now to speak up for these women just once? If you were a woman in Gaza, you'd be one of the million enduring the unimaginable pain of having their limbs amputated, waiting for the next bombing and the next time you're ill-fated. If you were a woman in Gaza, you'd be having C-sections without any kind of anesthesia or after delivery care. You'd most likely be a widow and have watched your kids killed in front of you with overwhelming feelings of anguish and despair. These are women like you and women like me, and we can no longer be silent until they are free. If you are a mother, then you have at some point racked your brain to try and figure out why your baby cries. Is she cold? Is she hungry? Is she thirsty or in pain? In Gaza, she is all of them, but no one cares or hears your complaints. What is a mother to do? These are women like me and women like you. If you have been watching what is happening in Gaza, you might have seen images that you can't get out of your head, like Sidra's body hanging there with her legs torn to shreds, like the tears streaked through rubble on that little girl's face, the teddy bears on her shirt mixed with blood, and still humanity is without a trace, like knowing that 6-year-old Hind was alone in her car with dead bodies of her family inside for days before she too was killed. Like seeing a grandmother holding a white flag in one hand and her grandson in the other being shot to death and filmed. Like watching a teenage girl having her foot amputated without anesthesia on her dining room table. How much more can they take? If you're still silent, it's betrayal. These are women like you and women like me, and we can no longer be silent until they are free. We can't forget the Palestinian mothers with lifeless babies in their arms begging them to wake, but instead their breasts ache, heavy with the milk meant for the child they will never hold again. We can't forget the mothers who lost a child before the age where he could even give her a smile. We can't forget the Palestinian women who had to write the names of their loved ones stuck under rubble using destroyed buildings as headstones. Can you imagine the pain of not being able to bury them and have their whereabouts unknown? We can't forget Rania Abu Anza, who waited 10 years to get pregnant with her beautiful twins, Naeem and Wissam. 10 years, and they, along with her husband, were ripped away from her within seconds. How does the world continue to allow this and fund Israeli weapons? These are women like you and women like me, and we can no longer be silent until they are free. We should see ourselves in every mother who will no longer be holding her child as she goes to sleep. We should see ourselves in every child who will never wake to a new morning because Israel robbed them of their peace. We should see ourselves in every father that had to say goodbye to his unborn child and pregnant wife. We should see ourselves in every woman that didn't get to marry the love of her life. We should see ourselves in every grandmother that had to bury her own grandkids. We should see ourselves in them more today than we ever did. We should see ourselves through every cry, every scream, every heart that bleeds and has been burdened with grief. You and I both know that these are women like you and women like me, and we can no longer be silent until they are free. Thank you. Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Thank you.